gonna show you hands down the easiest way to make multiple 6 figures, sometimes 7 figures a year, all while building equity in an asset that you can later sell for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. I bought my first practice in my second year out of school and made more money than I ever imagined I would be making, and I'm gonna show you how. Over the next 10 to 15 years, we are going to see the greatest wealth transfer ever in history. More than 10,000 baby boomers are retiring each day. According to the U.S. Small Business Association, more than half of all small businesses are owned by those over 50 years old. There are thousands and thousands of hardworking dentists who have built up loyal patient bases. They're looking for someone to take over their businesses. Now is your chance to take over a thriving business and make millions. By the end of this video, you will know how to go from being a dental associate or maybe even a dental student to being the owner of $1 million business, all without having to spend any of your own money. As a dentist, you don't need a groundbreaking idea to become the owner of $1 million business. You just need to learn how to keep the full value of the work that you're already doing. As an associate, maybe you're making $200,000 a year. As an owner, you can make double that, if not more, all while building equity in a business that you can later sell. With 75 million baby boomers retiring, many of whom are dentists, now is the time to catch the wave. This is your opportunity. 91% of people with a net worth over $5 million own their own business. Unlike trying to start a risky business like a restaurant or a retail store, as a dentist, you have the unique opportunity to take over a business that carries an exceptionally low risk. As a dentist, the path to success is clear: ownership. Oftentimes, new dentists think the only way to become an owner is to start a business from scratch. But the reality is, statistically, newer businesses are more likely to fail. The longer a business has existed, the more stable it is, and the more likely it is to continue existing into the future. When you start from scratch, it means starting with no patients, no revenue, no cash flow, but high upfront costs for equipment, marketing, and staffing. With an acquisition, you're stepping into an established practice with a proven track record, immediate cash flow, a loyal patient base, and proven systems. Your cash flow is covering the expenses and you have an income from day one. Now, what are some of the reasons that dentists don't go into practice ownership? The number one reason is simply fear. Many dentists believe they need more experience and they're not prepared to be owners. This makes absolutely no sense. You're a dentist. You made it through dental school. You passed your licensing exams and handle patients every single day. The hardest part is behind you. Running a practice is a skill that you can develop. And the only way to develop this skill is by becoming an owner. As a practice owner, you gain control over your career, your income, and your time. Owning a practice gives you the freedom to make the decisions that benefit both your patients and yourself. The second reason that I hear is that dentists are afraid that owning a practice is going to somehow impact their personal life, that they're going to be working more hours and are no longer going to have time to do the things they enjoy. Clearly, whoever believes this has never been a practice owner before. As an owner, you set your schedule. You decide when you want to work. No more punching in and out. No more being stuck to someone else's calendar. You create the work-life balance that fits your schedule, not someone else's. As a practice owner, you get to set your schedule around your priorities. Sure, you can work 5 days a week and make a lot of money, or you can work 2.5 days a week and still make a lot of money. When you're the boss, you get to decide. The third reason is that a lot of dentists just don't know where to find or even how to buy a dental practice. Many dentists just don't know where to start. Most dentists only buy a practice once or twice during their lifetime, so no one really knows what they're doing getting into it. This problem is so easy to solve. Find someone else who's done it. Find another dentist who's gone through this process before. This is literally what I do every day, helping dentists buy practices. You don't have to do this alone. Find the right guidance and the path is very manageable. Number 4 is financing. If you've never bought a practice before, you might think that buying a dental practice is expensive. You might think you're going to have to put a lot of money down. But the reality is, not only can you find banks that are willing to finance 100% of the purchase, meaning you don't have to put any money down, but also banks will often give you $100,000 or more in working capital to help with the initial expenses of running the business. As a dentist, getting a loan to buy a practice is easy, and I'm going to show you how. Dental practice acquisitions are one of the most profitable and predictable investments that exist. The banks know this, and that's why banks love practice acquisitions. When it comes to buying a practice, the banks cannot wait to loan you money. Dentists have a strong track record of success. Dental practices consistently generate solid and reliable cash flow. Unlike other industries where it can be hard to find a loan, banks see dental practices as a low-risk yet high-return investment. This means they're often ready to finance 100% of the purchase price. While most small business owners seeking a loan are going to have to put some amount of money down, because banks see dental practices as such low risk, they're not going to require you to put any money down. There are many lenders that specialize in only doing dental practice loans because they know how consistently rewarding these investments can be. It's not uncommon for these banks to give an additional $100,000 or more in working capital. As a dentist, you have access to some of the best financial terms available. It's easy to get the funds you need to make the leap into practice ownership. All right, I'm going to show you some real numbers from someone I recently worked with. Now, he had been working as an associate, keeping about 35% of his production. In the previous year, he'd made about $170,000. Now, he said he wanted to work harder, but the thing was he was at a practice that there were 2 other dentists, and those dentists were taking a lot of the procedures. So he decided it was time to get into ownership. He found a practice that was doing $900,000 a year. The sale price was $700,000, and he was able to get a loan for $800,000, which means he got $100,000 in working capital. His monthly payment on the loan was about $10,000 a month, and the yearly payment came out to be about $116,000. The overhead at this practice was 55%, which means the owner gets to keep 45%. And so assuming when he buys this practice, he doesn't increase the production at all, he's going to start out with an income of $405,000 a year. However, I know this dentist, and I know for a fact that he can produce more than the seller. And so even if he just increases production by 20%, he's going to be making $486,000 a year. Now, even when you take into account paying back the loan, assuming he does not raise production at all, he's still going to be taking home $288,000. And if he grows production by 20%, that number jumps to $369,000. Remember, in the previous year, he was making $170,000. This means that in his first year of ownership, he is likely going to double, if not triple, his income. And also remember, your practice loan payments are not an expense. Loan payments are an investment in an asset that you're later going to be able to sell at a profit. Every payment that you make towards your practice loan is basically the same thing as putting money into an investment account. Sure, you're going to be paying some interest expense, but the amount you're making as a practice owner is going to far overshadow that small amount you're paying in interest. And this is just one very average example. I personally know more than 3 dentists, all within 10 miles of where I live, who are producing more than $2 million per year. With this type of production, oftentimes it's possible to get your overhead as low as 50%. That means an income of $1 million a year. And that's still not including the equity you're building in your practice. In my first year out of school, I made about $200,000 working as an associate 5 days a week. In my second year out of school, when I bought my practice, I made $700,000. And I was only working clinically 3 days per week. When you're the owner of a business, you have no limits to your income potential. So how do you actually buy a dental practice? The first step is going to be finding a practice that's for sale. Now, there's a few ways you can do this. The first is going to be reaching out to practice brokers. A practice broker is similar to a realtor. Their job is to connect buyers to people selling dental practices. However, the thing to keep in mind is that practice brokers are working for the seller. These brokers work on a commission, usually about 10% of the sale of the practice. Now, if a practice is selling for $1 million, that's a $100,000 profit for that practice broker. So as you can imagine, practice brokers are very incentivized to have this sale go through. You need to go into this transaction with advisors that are on your side. Practice brokers are working for the seller. They are not working for you. You need a dentist who's gone through this before you. You need a lawyer, and you need an accountant, both of which you want to make sure have experience with dental practice transitions. Now, in addition to going through a practice broker, you can also try to find a practice directly, either by networking with other dentists or by some of the local supply reps that are in your town. Oftentimes, some of the best deals you can find are practices that have not yet been listed by a broker. Once you've found a practice that you want to buy, the next step is going to be submit an offer. The official way to submit an offer on a dental practice is by submitting a letter of intent, also known as an LOI. The LOI outlines your interest in purchasing the practice, your proposed terms, such as pricing and financing, and sets the stage for the negotiations. The LOI is not legally binding. but it shows the seller that you're interested in buying the practice. After submitting the LOI, the seller is generally going to come back with negotiations. This is where you enter into due diligence. Due diligence is where you dig deep into the details of the practice to make sure that everything is in order. You're going to be reviewing financial statements, patient records, equipment condition. You're going to assess the patient base, revenue, expenses, and you're going to look at the overall profitability of the practice. You're also going to investigate any potential liabilities, such as outstanding debts or legal issues. This step is crucial as it makes sure you're making a sound investment and that the practice is as profitable as it claims to be. Now, generally done at the same time as due diligence, this is where you're going to begin securing financing. As mentioned earlier, banks love dental practice acquisitions, so you're likely going to have multiple options. Oftentimes you can leverage the fact that you have multiple offers by having banks compete against each other and negotiate for better terms. Now, once you've come to an agreement with the seller on the purchase price and all the details, you've gone through the due diligence to make sure you understand everything about the practice, and you've secured your financing, the final step is going to be signing what's called an asset purchase agreement. This is the legal document that you will sign to officially transfer the ownership of the practice to you. The APA outlines all the final terms, the sale price, what assets are included, and any other conditions of the sale. Once signed, you are officially the owner of a dental practice, and you can begin reaping the rewards of ownership. Now is the time to take control of your career. You are not going to find a better opportunity than this. You have this limited window over the next 5 to 10 years to find an amazing practice. The sooner you begin, the sooner you can begin building equity in your business and enjoying the freedom that comes with being a practice owner.